everyone. My name's Tia Cooper, and I'm here to talk to you about my new book, The Fossil Hunter. We'll just wait for a minute or two and see if anybody is waiting to get in. If you're out there listening, please say hi. That way I'll know I'm not talking to myself. And maybe let me know where you're from. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments as we go along. Oh, and don't forget, bring a glass of wine. I hope you've got a glass of wine. I've got my glass of wine. First of all, I want to say a big thank you to Cheryl and everyone at Better Reading for the invitation tonight and for their wonderful support over the years. I also want to say hi and thank you to the HarperCollins HQ team, who sadly I haven't caught up with face to face for such a long time, but I hope I will soon. So, is there anybody there? I can't see anybody. Well, maybe I better make a start. Oh, yes, jolly good. Hello, Claire. Hello, Karen. Good. You've got your wine? Hello, Better Reading. Oh, there's lots of people there. Hello, Vivian. Hello, Christine. Oh, my goodness me. I can't keep up with this. Hello, Karen. Hello, Sandy. Hello, Monia. I hope I've said that right. Anna and Dari. Hi, Dari. Okay, I'm going to make a start. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. I'm talking to you from my home in Wollombi in the beautiful Hunter Valley, where much of this story is set. And if I disappear in a puff of smoke, it's because I've got a bit of a thunderstorm going on outside. Lots. Oh, hello from Brisbane. And a glass of Riesling. Jolly good. Good evening, Annie. And Lisa. Have I said Lisa? Heather. Goodness. So many people. Trisha. Hello. So from Brisbane. Wow, that's a long way away. Okay. So The Fossil Hunter. Now, what I want to do is to move the book around. Can you see those beautiful sparkles? This brilliant cover was designed by Darren Holt of the HarperCollins studio team. And when it arrived in my email, I just couldn't believe it. I just love it. No changes, no nothing, just, hey, isn't that fantastic? Oh, hello from Ballarat. 74 people, according to my... Goodness gracious me, Mary, thank you. I don't think I want to know that, actually. Oh, Vivian, you know Wollombi. We've got the wood chops coming up in Wollombi very soon, which if anybody's read The Seed Cutter, that was where the original idea for that book came up from. Yes, I love the cover too, and I think it's great. Hi, Parveen. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about The Fossil Hunter. It's written as a dual timeline, like most of my books are, and it's set in 1847 and 1919. And it revolves around, needless to say, a fossil that a woman comes across in the London Natural History Museum, and it leads her back in time to the 19th century Australia in a world of discovery and mystery. Dragon scale. Somebody's read the book. Yes, Trish, Wollombi is a beautiful place, and it makes it so easy to write the story, because every time I sort of run out of inspiration, I can take a walk down the road and have a look at where they're at and things like that. From Mackay, goodness me. Oh, I hope you enjoy reading it when you get it. Pelican Point, Western Australia, people from everywhere. It's so exciting. Okay, so back to the book for a minute. Penelope Jane is one of the main characters, and she served as an ambulance driver during the First World War. And she's in London waiting for repatriation. And she goes to the museum as a sort of a pilgrimage, because the last time she visited the museum, she was with her brothers, and it was before they enlisted. And when she discovers an Australian fossil, dating back to the 19th century, she recognizes the place name, Bow Wow Gorge, the very spot her brothers had fossicked as young boys. And in a fit of whimsy, she decides there might be something significant in their dusty old collection of fossils at home in Australia. And she decides it's the perfect way to commemorate her lives. So that is how the story starts. But then she gets dragged back in time. Hi from I'm just having a look at all these comments. Queensland. You love the girl in the painting. Good, Mark. That wasn't set in Wollongbai. That was set in Maitland. Mount Gambier. Wow. Evans Head. I know Evans Head. That's Lisa. Hello, Lisa. And hello, Mary. I've got to say everybody's names, haven't I? So has anybody got any questions? Or shall I tell you about the inspiration behind the book? Let's see if anybody's... Nobody's got any questions yet? Okay, so I'll tell you a bit about the inspiration. So all my books are standalone books, but there's this thread of research that runs through them. And it all began with The Naturalist's Daughter, when I spent some time learning about taxidermy in the early 19th century. And I went off down all sorts of rabbit holes, which eventually led to Ludwig Leichhardt. Now, if you know the, if you've read The Cartographer's Secret, you'll know where Ludwig Leichhardt fits into this. But there was also another explorer, Sir Thomas Mitchell. He was the Australian Surveyor General. And he was also the first person to send Australian fossils back to the Natural History Museum in London. And among them, you guessed it, were some from the Hunter Valley, right on my doorstep, a place called, well, the fossils actually didn't come from Bow Wow Gorge, but they came from very close by. So there we are, Diane, hello. There's the inspiration. Trish, there's the inspiration. How long does it take me to create them? That's all very, very tricky because of this sort of thread of research that goes through it. I'm a bit like a bowerbird. I end up with all these little snippets of things that are interesting. So usually by the time I've sent, so the Fossil Hunters come out and I've just sent my next book to my publisher, which will be next year's book. So now I'm beginning to think about my pile of snippets and where I think I might go. So I'm going to spend the next couple of months going through those. I've already decided vaguely which thread I'm going to follow. And I probably won't start. I do lots of research and go down lots of rabbit holes. And then I make a timeline, because I have to make two timelines. I have to make a timeline that's the actual historical facts, and a timeline that is that's the fictional story. And now I want to answer some of these questions, so I'll come back to it. I'm glad you enjoyed The Cartographer's Secret, Christine. Elibana, I know Wollongbai, haha. And you know Chris and Kat. We've spoken before, Peter, haven't we? I hope you enjoy The Fossil Hunter, because it's got lots to do with Wollongbai, the cemetery and the mill pond especially. So Linda knows, hello Linda. Linda knows about Newcastle too. Vivian, I'm hoping you enjoy it. And hello from Maitland, Debbie. Have you read The Girl in the Painting, I wonder? Right, I'm going to go back to how long does it take to write it? And then Diane, I'm going to come back to your question about one era and the next era. Yes, so I've done some research, but not all of it. And then I have to make the two timelines, the real one and the fictional one. And then I make a family tree, but it's a bit bigger than a family tree because it's also the some of the characters, because otherwise I get in a muddle with whether somebody was somebody's great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather, you see. So I make a big family tree. So I've got my family tree and I've got my timeline, and I know who my main characters are. And then I start writing, because that's the only way. I don't really know where the story is going to go, but I start writing and I write my way into the characters so that I kind of get to know them. And then I write random scenes that come, that I can sort of see happening. And once I feel as though I've got to know the characters, then I can go back and start doing a bit more serious plotting. And then I'll sit down. And who asked me that question about whether I wrote the two eras? Oh, Diane. Yes. So I write the two stories, the two eras, completely separately for the first draft, because both of those stories need to have a story arc. And then I interweave them. Now, I hope everybody's got a glass of wine. I've got a glass of wine. I want to show you this. So you get one story sort of runs down there, and the other story runs down there, and then the two stories merge and you get the resolution at the bottom. But the two stories that run down there, I write separately. And yes, and then I interweave them and edit them and edit them and edit them. So that's how I handle the two different eras. Gail, you just finished The Fossil Hunter and you enjoyed it. How fantastic. That's great. I can't see the rest of your comment. Debbie, you don't think you've read that one? Are you Debbie that was from Maitland? Because Debbie from Maitland, you have to read The Girl in the Painting. Because I was sitting in the art gallery and the main character, Miss Elizabeth Quinn from The Girl in the Painting, walked past me. I swear she did. And then I knew what I was going to write about. Oh, a relative in Wallenby Cemetery found dead in a paddock in the 1830s. I better go and find him. That's fascinating. Hello, Anne. Hello from Grafton, Jodie. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like my books. How long do your two eras, this is Christine Talbot's question, how long do your two eras encompass and how do you merge them? I don't know. It depends. It varies from book to book because it just depends how the story arc plays out. But usually they're a relatively short period of time. They don't jump sort of 50 years within each timeline, because as I showed you with the wine glass, they merge, and then that comes. Oh, good. Diane liked my wine glass analogy. Yes, it's a school teacher in me. You've got to have a visual aid. Oh, Trish, that's an interesting question. Does your research ever inspire you to create more than one book? One you put on hold until you finish the first? No, well, this is what I mean about this thread of research that goes through it. You see, you start researching something, go back to the naturalist daughter, and I went back. I had to go and find out how to stuff taxidermy of platypus. But I found out all this really interesting stuff about taxidermy and about these women who ran a shop in Sydney. And that information fed into The Woman in the Green Dress about the shop. And then in The Girl in the Painting, which I think came next, the women that owned the shop actually had an exhibition in Maitland where The Girl in the Painting set. And so that fed into the next story. So it's this sort of line that waves along, but each story is completely different. And the only characters I don't ever have the characters coming back into the story. I don't continue the story of a character that was a main character in one of the books, but I do occasionally slip in some of the secondary characters, but they're usually very insignificant, and I kind of do it for my own amusement rather than anything else. So the solicitor, I think it's the solicitor in the naturalist's daughter turns up in The Cartographer, but I mean, it's just, he only has about 2 lines to say, so it's not really important. Hi, Kylie. Hello from Adelaide. Good, Bev. I hope you do enjoy it and you love my other books. That's nice. Who are my favorite authors and what are you currently reading? I I read, I read, I'm one of those people that reads what's on the back of the cereal box. I read, and all the signs and everything else. I read everything. I recently read, I recently did an interview with Kate Nunn, and I'd read one of her books and I hadn't read any of the others. And so I've lately just finished a Kate Nunn binge. I think she writes great books, but she also writes dual timelines. So that amuses me. And actually, at the moment, I'm reading a book called The Progress of the Forger. But I'm not going to tell you anything else about that because that's part of my research that's happening, maybe. Diane loved the girl in the painting. Oh, I wonder who you stayed with, Vivian, who lived opposite the cemetery. Ooh, curiosity. What inspired me? Oh, Kylie, hello. What inspired me to want to become a writer? Well, I always wanted to be. Well, no, I didn't really always want to be. Apparently, I used to write books for my teddy bears, and things like that. But then that went away. And then when I left school, all I wanted to do was to be a journalist. So I had a stinking argument with my mother, who said I got to go to university. And then she said that if you can find yourself a job before you have to start university, you can do it. So I taught my way into a job as a cadet journalist, but unfortunately it didn't last for very long. So I ended up at Teachers College, and then I don't know, hundreds of other things got in the way, kids, houses, and things like that. And then we had a very rainy Easter holiday, and there was a competition in the Women's Weekly to write a Mills and Boon book. And so I thought, I can do that. It'll be really easy. So it was really, really short, not even as long, it was about 10,000. Well, it was a short story. And I did that. And I actually won second prize. Well, the first prize was a contract, and the second prize was a bottle of perfume. And I was so devastated that I hadn't won, that I wasn't ever going to do it again. And then when I gave up teaching, I thought, I'm going to have another go. So what inspired me? It's just something I wanted to do. I also like the idea of having a book in the National Library or something like that. I thought it would be sort of like a tombstone. Hello from Brisbane. Very familiar with, this is Michelle. Very familiar with the Wollombi district. Your ancestors had a farm down Yanga Creek Road. I know that road very well. Runs down just past the pub. Have I got a favourite? Jill, have I got a favourite novel that you've written? Everybody always asks me that, and I usually say The Naturalist's Daughter. It took me such a long time to write that book because it was the first dual timeline that I did. In actual fact, it was going to be a series. It was supposed to be 3 books. And my publisher said, no, we're not going to do 3 books. And so the only way I could do it was to turn it into a dual timeline. And so the first book became the backstory. The second book became the first timeline. And the third book became the second timeline in it. So there was a lot of effort went into that one, and there was a lot of angst as well. But I do like it. I do like the story, and it's got chunks of Cornwall in it, where I used to go when I was a kid. Paula, you're joking. Your husband's great-great-grandparents are buried in Wollombi Cemetery. Goodness me. I'm going to have to do a big walk around Wollombi Cemetery and I've got a book actually about it too. Love The Woman in the Green Dress. This is Mary. It was the first one of yours that I read. Hooked now. Well, The Woman in the Green Dress, that's lovely. I'm glad you enjoyed it. The Woman in the Green Dress was the shop in the green dress, the Curio Shop at Wonders, I think it was called, was the one that was based on the 2 women that ran the taxidermy shop. You mentioned being a teacher. Trish, I'm a teacher too. No, I didn't. No, I absolutely didn't start to write and publish books while I was still teaching. Well, technically I did, because I mean, I taught for 35 years, but I just woke up one day and instead of, I don't want to go to work, I'm having a bad day, I just went, I can't do this anymore. And so I took long service leave and I did start, so I started writing technically while I was still on long service leave. But I actually had quite a lot of long service leave stacked up. And by the time I'd spent some time at home and moved and done a few other things, I thought, I don't want to go back. So I retired. I have no idea how anybody can write a book and have kids at home and hold down a job. It would just be beyond me. Kylie, my name's very interesting. That's not a weird question. Tia is short for Dorothea, which was my grandmother's name. And, well, actually, this goes back to Trish's question. And Cooper is my maiden name. I didn't, when my first book came out, which was a romance, I didn't want it under my teaching name because I've had visions of the kindergarten kids reading it and I didn't think it was appropriate. So I ended up with a pseudonym which is sort of stuck, except it's not really a pseudonym because Tia's my middle name and Cooper's my maiden name. So that's the story behind that. Jackie Moffat, sorry, Debbie, friend of mine, everybody lives in Wollombi, don't they? A friend of mine lives in Wollombi, Jackie Moffat. I know somebody Moffat, but I didn't think her name was Jackie. I can't remember her name. I'll think about it. Hi, Tia, a bit late or signing in. Love the girl in the painting. Thank you, Jessie. What books did I read as a child? Everything. I've still got the Hans Christian Andersen hand-painted watercolors book that my grandfather gave me. I think that's probably the book I remember first, but I was a great reader and I went to boarding school, so we did a lot of reading. And as I got older, I read a lot of, I can't even think of the names of the richer people. No, I can't remember. But yes, what book said it? So we weren't, I always wanted to read Enid Blyton. I did eventually read Enid Blyton, but we weren't allowed to read Enid Blyton at boarding school because it wasn't deemed appropriate. Kate Roberts. I've read The Naturalist's Daughter, The Woman in the Green Dress, The Horse Thief. I love them all. Next is The Fossil Hunter. I'm looking forward. Thank you so much. I'm glad you've enjoyed them all. What am I writing next? Karen Brooks. Huh. Hello, Karen. What am I writing next? I've just sent it to my publisher. So, and it was going to be called The House of Butterflies. At the moment, I think it's called The Butterfly Collector. And it references Helena and Harriet Scott, the botanists who lived on Ash Island in the Hunter River. And it also, there's a bit of a dark side to it as well, because it goes into the rather repulsive practice of baby farming in the 19th century. But there is a happy ending. But whether that will be my next book, I don't know. I've got to wait and see if it'll be accepted. Jackie has a bed and breakfast there. Jackie Moffat. Jackie has a bed and breakfast there. Oh, I can't remember. I'm sorry, Debbie. Do you ever start a story? This is Trish Nichols. Do you ever start a storyline and then not finish it? Yes. I've got a file on my computer that's called Novel Attempts. And yes, well, I often sort of start these things and don't finish them. Although I have to admit, I've been a bit better about it since I've had ongoing contracts, because quite honestly, if you're putting out one book a year, it's pretty hard to go off track too much. And also because my books have been coming out in America, I've had to re-edit those for the American market. So it's pretty full on. So I haven't added that much to the Novel Attempts lately. But then I'll say, oh, no, that's not true, because sometimes if there's a scene or something that's a complete disaster, but when it won't fit in, I'll think of, oh, I don't want to throw that away. So it goes in there. Lindsay, thank you for your books. I have read all of them and waiting to read the new one. My research is fun. Thank you so much. I do love research. I really do. It's great fun. And that's why I like doing it in The Hunter, because I really can just, so easily walk the paths that my characters have walked. Do I ever go back to my attempts file? I haven't actually. I don't think I've been back to my attempts file for quite a while. I don't know when I last went back to it. I'll probably have to go and have a look tomorrow now, Anne. Marianne, do you find your inspiration comes in the same order? Oh, characters first and ending first and then piecing the rest. That's a really tricky question, and it's a really good. So I get the sort of vague idea about where the story is going to go. And then, as I said earlier on, once I've worked out a family tree, I pretty much know who the character is going to be. And the timeline will have, the fictional timeline will have, this happened and then this happened and this happened and this happened, but literally just one sentence. So I don't act, and then I go back and do some more plotting once I've talked to the case. Sounds fey, doesn't it? But once the characters have talked to me and I know where I'm going, or I get a vague idea where I'm going, then I will write the two different timelines, and then I will piece it together. And then I start to piece it together and realize that I've got a plot knot and I can't do that, or I've given away what I've got. I've given away something in the early timeline that I shouldn't have given away at that point. And so there's a bit of jiggling. It's a bit like doing a cryptic crossword, but I really do enjoy it. It's great fun. Well, that's it. We've got about 3 minutes left if anybody's got another question. Or otherwise, we might just wrap it up. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining me, and some really fabulous questions. One more, Bev. Has COVID affected your writing day and your research? Yes, it did. And it certainly did with The Fossil Hunter, because I had to put off going to Bow Wow Gorge, where a lot of it's set, because I couldn't go there because we had restrictions. And then I managed to squeeze it in. But it was a little bit late, really, because I'd already written it. But no, actually, it was good. I mean, it was really good to go that way. Anyway, so we're pretty much at the end of the time. Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's gone so quickly. I can't believe it. It was lovely to meet all of you. And great questions. And stay in touch. And if you read and enjoy The Fossil Hunter or any of my other books, please let me know. Okay?